Ladies and gentlemen, geeks and nerds, welcome to this Minecraft tutorial video. And today we're going to be building this very simple carrot or potato farm. It doesn't need any redstone and it only uses a single villager. The original concept from this farm is by a Reddit user called Swamp, and a link to the original concept and Reddit post is in the description. But before we get into the explanation of how this farm works, I've got a whole bunch of stuff to show you right over there. Let's take a quick look around and see it working. So here we have a 15 by 15 area of crops that this villager in the middle is harvesting, and we have these lights in a very particular configuration, which means that there is one block in the middle, a magic block where the villager is right now, that has a light level of 7, which means that crops will pop off if he tries to plant them. And this block gets updated constantly by these two observers, and so what happens is the crops get captured into this chain of hoppers and into this chest right here. So it is super simple. There we go, load of carrots. And yeah, the rates of this farm, you'll get about per hour about 460 odd carrots or potatoes per hour. So not too shabby, not too shabby. Now before we get into the actual build of how to put this thing together, I've got a bunch of things I'd like to show you and explain about how this farm works and a few gotchas that you might experience. I built this in my single player survival world in my series Road to HermitCraft, and yeah, I've had a few mishaps, a few gotchas, so I'd like to go over those so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. But yeah, let's get on with it. And there's quite a lot of things to talk about, and there's some timestamps on the screen right now, so you can skip to the parts that you find more interesting, and there's also links in the description so you can also skip to those parts as well. Anyway, let's get on with the explanation. So the first thing to talk about is the villager that's going to be doing the harvesting of your crops, and the villager has to be one of these guys that's in a brown robe, a brown coat. And villagers in Minecraft are separated by careers. There's lots of different careers, and they're grouped by profession. And what you need any villager from the farmer profession. So there are 4 of those. One is a farmer itself. There's also a fisherman, and also a shepherd, and also a fletcher. But basically any villager with a brown coat will do for this farm, because they are the only ones that can harvest crops. Next on our list is the crops. So as I said, this farm is only good for carrots or potatoes, and it's not good for wheat or beetroots. And the reason for that is that wheat and beetroots have seeds that you need to plant rather than the crop itself. So potatoes and carrots, you plant potatoes and carrots and you'll get potatoes and carrots out. So that's that. The other thing is you should only keep one crop per farm. Don't mix the two together because you'll end up with one overtaking the other over time. Crops can only be planted and grow on farmland, and you'd make farmland by tilling some dirt with a hoe like this. Once you have your farmland, you need to hydrate it with some water, and you need to have your farmland within 4 blocks of some water for it to become hydrated. Hydrating your farmland is really important because it makes your crops grow much faster, and also it keeps it as farmland. Farmland that is not hydrated can easily turn back into dirt if it doesn't have a crop planted on it. When you're building farms with villagers, it's really useful to understand what the detection range is for the crops. So imagine I have a farmer on this white block right here, and imagine actually that this is all the way around. I've only showed one quarter here, but the villager can detect crops, either fully grown crops or empty farmland, 15 blocks in each of the directions, north, south, east and west. And this green area is the area they'll be able to detect those either fully grown crops or farmland. So if I was to place some right here in this red area, let's say right here, and let's stick some carrots in, make sure they're all fully grown. Now if I was to summon a farmer onto this white block, he will not do anything. He can't detect those carrots and he will stay there. So let's get rid of you for a second. Thanks, buddy. Now, let's get rid of this. Now, if we were to put one in the green area, right here, let's plant the carrots, bone meal it up. Now, if I was to bring in a new farmer, he should detect those carrots and go off and do his work. And there he goes. Well done. So yeah, it's important to understand that. So yeah, this green area from the farmer is 15 blocks out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 15, not the 16th block. And you'll see It's not quite a circle, but it's also not quite a square. So imagine this goes all the way around the farmer in all directions. I'm only showing 1/4 here, but yeah, that is the range. So this is important, and we'll talk about why a bit later on. Now let's talk about villager pathfinding. And as it turns out, villagers are not that smart. So this is a little gotcha that I experienced in my world. But here we have just some crops here, and I'm going to summon a villager in a second on this white block. And it's a straight line to this crop right here over this lily pad, but also the villager could just walk around here to get to this crop. But what you'll find is what's going to happen is he'll get stuck. So let me show you. If I summon him in, he sees the crop, he goes towards it, and look, he just gets stuck. Now the reason for that is if I turn on the bounding boxes, you'll see this is how big a villager is. So a villager is 1.95 blocks tall, so almost two blocks tall, and a lily pad is that big. But if you add the two together, it's bigger than 2 blocks high, and so this villager will not fit in between this gap right here. But instead of walking around, he just stares at the carrots, and he will stay there for quite some time. And this will obviously slow down your farm, and is not great. And still on the subject of pathfinding, here is another example. So I'm going to summon a villager on this white block over here, and he is going to detect this carrot right over here. But look, there is a wall in the way. Now let's see, what does he do? He looks at the carrots, he finds them, and now he's just going to stand there. Now let me plant some more carrots over here and bone meal them up. He still stands there. Eventually he will forget about those crops and he'll come and get these ones. But again, this is important. We'll talk about this again in a bit more detail later. But yeah, when it comes to pathfinding and detection, the villagers are not that smart. So you have to do some things to help them as much as you can. And here's the final example. Even a gap in the path will fool a villager. He will spot the carrot, walk towards it, and again he will be stuck. Even if I put some other carrots around, yeah, he will not go to them. And of course, when dealing with villagers, you have to think about the village itself as well. So here I have a village, and I've got a mod installed that allows me to see the sphere of the village. So here it is. This is the sphere of a village, and we just got some doors in the center there, which creates the village. Now let's talk about what's important. So first of all, if you have your farm that covers the boundary, like this one right here, you'll notice that the farmers will only tend crops on the inside of the village. And so if you're building your farm, make sure you build it either fully inside or fully outside of the boundaries of your village. Otherwise, only half the crops, or should I say only the crops inside the village, will be harvested. As you can see here, look, you can see the shape of that. Hopefully I can get the angle right. You can see that those crops over there have not been harvested. The next thing to consider when it comes to villages is that if you have a villager just outside your village, so within 32 blocks of the boundary, they will try and make their way back inside. So place a villager right here in this red area. Imagine your farm was here. The villager would in fact get distracted by the village, want to make his way back inside rather than tending to the crops. The next thing to talk about that's very important for this farm is the lighting. So what I've got here is a roof on top to hide the sunlight, and just got some sea lanterns here to give us some artificial light underneath. And if I go onto these green blocks here and turn my F3 screen on, you can see that we're currently on a light level of 12, so 12 block level. And if I walk forward, you'll see as we get further away from the sea lanterns, our block level goes down to 10, 9, 8, and over here we're on 7. So 7 and below is this red area. And what happens here, why this is special, is if we have crops planted on light level 7 and give the block an update, the crops will pop off because there isn't enough light to sustain them. And this is important for our farm because we're going to have one of these magic blocks at light level 7 in the center of the farm. So the villager keeps coming back to it and tries to plant his plants. And if we can constantly update this block, whenever a villager tries to plant some blocks like this, they will constantly pop off and we can collect them. And how are we going to update this block constantly? Well, we're just going to get 2 observers and face them into each other. So if we just pop one there like that, so its face is here, and then put another observer facing this one, this will turn into a quick observer clock. So you can see this is flashing here, and it's also updating this block here constantly. And if I plant a carrot right here, it pops off. And every time I plant, it pops off. So all we've got to do now is to collect the carrots. The next part of the puzzle is how we're going to collect these crops once they've popped off. And one thing you could think of is to have a hopper underneath this farmland. Imagine this was the magic block. Because it's less than a block tall, any items that are on top will get sucked through the hopper and into this chest. So if I was to drop this carrot on top like this, it will actually end up in the chest. But unfortunately, that will not work in our farm. If I just jump up here and go into survival mode, if you now imagine that I'm a farmer, I'll go up to this block, and if I break the carrot to harvest it, I will in fact pick up all of the carrots and none will end up in the chest. And that's the one we had from before. How we overcome that is to use something slightly different. What we need to do is add a hopper minecart and place it inside the farmland block. And what happens here is that will take priority. So once the villager breaks the carrots, or when they pop off, should I say, the hopper minecart will take priority. They will suck those items down and into the chest instead. So let's give this a whirl. You can see, oh, let's empty this chest out. And if I go into survival mode again, so this time I'm going to be the farmer and I'm going to break the carrots. This time I don't pick them up, but instead they end up in the chest. So if we can now combine all of these things we've learnt, we can now build our farm. But in fact, before we get to the actual build itself, there's just a few gotchas that I just want to mention, just so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So first of all, in my single player world, I actually put two of these farms, or actually three of these farms together in this configuration. And what was happening was, as we've seen before with the villager pathfinding, is that villagers in the two different farms would get confused and end up detecting crops in the opposite farm, even though there was a wall in place. And sometimes actually there was a full air gap in between, and that confused the villagers and slowed them down. So I would avoid putting these farms next to each other, try and have at least 15 blocks in between, because we've seen from the detection zone of a villager to the crops, it only detects up to 15 blocks away. So yeah, make sure your farms are separate. The other gotcha to be aware of is that there is a bug in Minecraft where if you have a villager and they end up walking over a chunk boundary while it's being loaded or unloaded, that villager can in fact disappear. So what you need to do if you can is to try and build your farm inside a chunk. And because because the dirt in our farm is 15 by 15, it will fit nicely inside a single chunk. These farms can also be stacked as well, and when it comes to the pathfinding, the villager will only detect dirt on the same level, or one block up or one block down. So stacking these farms together is no problem at all. If you would like to build this farm in your world, this is how you do it. You start off with a 15 by 15 area of dirt, and then we need to add the water in place. So to do that, you need 4 holes for water, and they are placed 4 blocks in from the corner. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and the next block, make a hole and do that for all 4 corners. And then if you fill these holes with water and stick a lily pad on top, we're ready for the next bit. Once you've added your water, the next thing to do is to find the center block of your farm, which is this one right here for us. And underneath there, add a hopper, just like this one right here. And after that, you can either add this to like a water stream, or keep it simple like I've done here and just have a chain of hoppers that lead to a chest. Once you've done that, the next thing to do is to get our hopper minecart in place. So if you come down here and pop a rail on top of your hopper and then break these next 2 dirt blocks in front of it, and then what you can do is place your hopper minecart on top of this rail and jump down onto these hoppers, and we should, if we go far enough back, should be able to break the rail like that. And then if we build up this temporary structure right next door to the hopper minecart, just like this, it's kind of upside down L shape, a button on top, and have a piston facing downwards above the hopper minecart and a block in front like that. Press the button, that will push the block down on top of the hopper minecart, and you can get rid of your temporary structure. With that done, we just need to get our observers in place to make sure this block is being constantly updated. So we can place one just here temporarily and one in front of it like that. Break this first one And so we should have the face of the observer here, and if we place the next one facing that one, our two observers are now facing each other and constantly updating this middle block right here. And this is our magic block. And the next thing to do is to add the lighting. The important thing is that this center block right here, this magic block, this is the only block at light level 7. You can configure the lights however you want, as long as that is the outcome. I'll show you a configuration here that works. So if you add either a sea lantern or glowstone at each of the 4 corners, and also in the center of each of the sides at the same level as the dirt. Once you've done that, if you add some light above each of the lily pads, so if you go up 2 blocks and then place your light source and break those 2 blocks, do that on each of the lily pads, that is the next step. With the lighting above the lily pads done just like that, if we now add an opaque block above our magic block, so if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's at the same level as our sea lanterns right there. And above that we go a further 1, 2, and then on the 3rd block add another light source. That is all the lighting in place. And once all the lighting is placed, the last couple of things to do is just add a wall around the outside, so at least 2 high. This will keep the villager in place and also protect it from any zombies that might come along. And the last thing then is to add a roof on top. So if you make it at the same level as this top sea lantern, make it all the way out so it covers the whole farm. That can do 2 jobs. First of all, it will block the sunlight, because obviously lighting control is very important, but also it will act as a shield against lightning, because if a villager is struck by lightning, it will turn into a witch. Once your roof is in place and the lights are in, I recommend double checking the light levels of your farm. You need to do this before you till the dirt into farmland, because once you're on farmland you won't get a light reading. So how you do this is you walk around with your F3 screen on, and you can see we're on this magic block here and our light is light level 7, and if we check the blocks around it, they are higher than light level 7, which is exactly what we need. And of course finally you need to till all of the dirt into farmland and plant your carrots, and then get yourself a farmer inside. Once you've got your farmer in place and a few carrots, the farmer will go ahead and start doing his work. And we can double check that this is working. Here's our magic block, and if we try and place a carrot, it pops off and this disappears even if we stand on top of it. And if we go and check out our chest, which is around here, we have some carrots. So this is all working nicely, and you can see this farmer going about his business. And that is about it on how to build this super simple carrot or potato farm. I hope you found it useful, and if you did, then please leave a like. If you've got any comments or suggestions or questions, then feel free to get it in that comment section. And if you are new, then hit that subscribe button. Until next time, my geeks, I'll see you later.